Welcome, listeners, to Through the Sightglass. Today, we're doing a fun little episode. It's a recap episode
Woohoo!
of what we've done over the past year.
Yeah. Happy New Year 2025.
Yeah,
Yeah.
coming into 2025.
Yeah. Very exciting. We have some stats for y'all today that we're going to go through, and then we're going to do a little bit of recap and then talk about some future stuff. So we're super excited to get into it. It'll be short and sweet because we don't have a whole lot to say, but we did a whole lot. So
Yeah, we'll start off by saying thank you for everybody that is listening, that has been listening, friends and supportive family. We really appreciate it.
yes, the community has been really awesome, and we're excited to expand as well. So
And it's been so much fun. I think it's been very fulfilling. I think it was very insulating in one part where we were living, but we got to get out here, travel across the United States, meet so many wonderful individuals. So it makes it feel much brighter as opposed to what we were feeling when we started.
yeah, totally. Cool. Let's get into the stats. So how many breweries do you think we podcasted with?
Well, so I believe that we've done at least 40 episodes and we've released 32 episodes.
We have released 32 episodes. We've recorded with 38 breweries.
Okay.
So close
Mhm.
to that 40. We do have some in the works that we'll kind of talk about a little bit later, but not right now. How many states have we podcasted in?
Oh, gosh.
I know you've driven through a lot, but how many
Yes.
have we podcasted with?
So Julie and I, living in a van, we've been through the United States multiple times.
We haven't hit all 50 states.
We haven't
yet.
hit all 50 states, especially states like you can't drive your van to Hawaii.
Yeah.
We have
could
not
ship
driven
it.
our van to Alaska
We should. Maybe.
But-
not.
for another podcast. But yeah, I think this year, if I'm running through my mind, the states that we've been through,
That we podcasted with.
that we've
Or podcasted
no,
in.
yeah, the states that we've podcasted with, it's probably like 7 or 8.
10 states.
Oh, okay.
So those 38 breweries have been across 10 states.
Damn. We also would hit some more states, but we had some van issues.
Yes, we
So
would
we
have
had to
gotten
cancel some podcasts.
Yeah, we would have gotten Colorado and Utah in there, I think.
Yeah.
But we had to cancel a couple, which is unfortunate. But we'll come back next year and get them. So
Still time.
they'll be all right. So the states in that, of course, Oregon, Washington. That's kind of where we're based out of the PNW
Mm-hmm.
in our cute little van with our cats.
Yeah.
So Oregon, Washington, and then we drove across. We skipped over Colorado and Utah, unfortunately, because we had to get to a
We had to
family
make
thing.
time to Oklahoma. So we
Yep.
spent time in Oklahoma for about 60 plus days.
So we did Oklahoma and Texas, and then from there we went to North Carolina, South Carolina, and then we went up to St. Louis. So we were in
Oh, that was
Missouri.
so much fun.
I know. We definitely want to go back, get some
Mhm.
more breweries up there, and then we headed over to Vermont, and then we've been in Vermont, Massachusetts, and Maine.
Yeah, like the East Coast. New Hampshire.
Wait, I skipped over North Carolina and South Carolina.
No, you already said that. You
I did?
Yeah.
Okay. In my head, I was like following it geographically, and I think
No. You hit those.
yeah.
I think it's also weird being up at the East Coast because we went from Vermont and they're like, oh, we're in Maine. But also Vermont and Maine, the East Coast, going from state to state
states are
is
so
so
easy.
easy. It's like an hour and a half, 2 hours to go to like New Hampshire, to go to Massachusetts, to go
Yeah.
to Connecticut.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's really great though. So 10 states, 38 breweries. Just a minimum travel mileage. This is not including back and forth or any around town stuff or anything.
Hmm.
If we hit all of the main cities that we podcasted in, it will be 6,000 miles minimum that we have done in the van with our cats to podcast with these amazing breweries. So yeah,
I love it.
we love it very much.
Lots of oil
I should've-
changes.
Lots of oil changes, tire rotations.
We also met
catch-ups.
other brewery cats, which was awesome. Shout out to Simon at
Mhm.
Second Shift.
Yeah,
Thank you, Simon.
Yeah, we love Simon. All right, you already said, but we have published in 2024. We published 32 podcasts,
Yeah.
and we didn't start posting until I think March.
Yeah, so we
So March. So we only missed a couple of weeks. We took some vacation and then some holiday stuff. But 32 weeks. I think we started posting in March.
yeah. I will say I think to preface it that when we
No, we started posting in May.
no, I
Didn't
believe it was March. So when we started out,
we?
we we had a plan, and I was leaving jobs and work to focus on Through the Sightglass and do some endeavors, as well as you were. You were also simultaneously working
Working.
project management for Yahoo.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we started in early January, we had been based out of Bend, and we were like, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
do this, we're going to travel, we're going to podcast. And so we went back to a lot of the places that we call home. I will say that is the places that I called home, the places that I grew up in, and the places I also previously worked. So that
Mm-hmm.
was located in like Tacoma, Washington, and Hood River in Astoria, Oregon. And so we started that early on, um,
Yeah, we
podcasting
started
out there.
podcasting
And
early.
we were kind of worried that as we were going, trying to get podcasts scheduled, especially with breweries, was going to be difficult because of just, brewery scheduling and just people's lives. So
Mm-hmm.
we were talking to businesses, essentially cold calling in terms of like emails, Instagram messages to set up an interview. We would come to them, we would make it very easy. But yeah, I think we were trying to plan that if we ever had lag time that we could have episodes banked. And so
Yeah.
we recorded about 3 or 4 and kept those and then started to release them later on, but we started
Yeah.
January of
We posted our
2024.
first one on April 3rd.
Okay, yeah. So we had about 3 or 4 banked, and we didn't realize though that it kind of comes and goes in waves. There
It
was
does.
definitely spots where we had like dry spells in terms of in a month we would get 2 people that were willing out of like
Mm-hmm.
like 15 or 20 that we'd reach out to
Mm-hmm.
that would do episodes.
Right.
And then following week we'd have 6 or 8
Mm-hmm.
happening in 2 weeks, and
Yeah, we
so
would cram them in sometimes.
it's been it's kind of been like up and down, and so I
Mm-hmm.
think we thought banking some episodes would be beneficial, which I think it did,
Mm-hmm.
but then we also felt kind of rushed,
Right.
being like, oh shit, like we haven't necessarily provided what we said we were going to do. So,
Yeah, I mean, like right now we're sitting. We'll post this next, and then we'll start posting our 33rd podcast. Will start, I think, the second week of January, and so
mm,
we have 6 podcasts that we have already recorded that we have been working on editing, getting the photos and everything too. So we definitely have kept that up, which I think has been really nice and gives us some flexibility if we do have those low spots and like travel time. Like I don't know if a lot of you
hmm
know, we're driving from place to place
hmm
in our van. We have our cats
yeah,
with the podcast equipment, and we go into these breweries to meet with these amazing people, with this amazing community, and so we're not doing this over the phone. We're not doing this via Skype or Zoom or Google Meet or anything like that. We're legitimately driving to these places and going to the brewery, and that's how we get all of the photos and the video that we can do, so we can post. And meeting them in person, I feel like is just so much better. We ended up having made some really great connections and really met some really good people and friends that we're excited to go back and visit or stay in touch with. And
yeah,
um,
it's cool to see the space too. I think like
yeah.
there's a different element. Our One of our goals in 2025 is to get video equipment so we can
Mhm.
kind of shoot video and show you. But when we do when we do the storytelling, we get to go to these spaces. We get to see this community. And it's not just like the facility itself. It's like the town. It's the neighboring
Mhm.
people around them. And I think that's something like Julie and I always connect with. And
Mhm.
like half the conversation we have is also not recorded. It's after the
Right.
podcast.
Or before, or
Yeah,
like we talk so much. Like you get to hear a snippet of what we actually like get to talk to these people about and get to experience. So
yeah, and it's super fun to meet all the people that get connected. You get to meet people. I mean, we'll talk about this a little later on, but
yeah.
like we've met people that do like design work for breweries that are regulars at the bar, and they talk
Right.
about how they met the owners, and
Mm-hmm.
those things are like special.
And
The
we get
regu
to meet some of the regulars there sometimes as well, which is super
Yeah.
fun.
And whether they're farmers or whether they help build the facility, like that's always a cool aspect. It shows how very intertwined these connections and businesses are to local community.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
How many hours do you think that we have posted of podcast talking?
um it is rough to say.
So with the
I know you've
32,
run numbers on it. But
we've done 32 podcasts.
mhm.
So we have a total of 51 hours of podcast, 51 hours and 20 minutes of podcast
How does it
posted.
feel to listen to your own voice? 51 hours worth of your own
Dude,
voice.
it was hard at first. It really
Yeah.
was. I think it was hardest. I think for you, because you're editing the
Mhm.
podcast audio, and then I do the reels. So I listen back to them, but it's already been edited by you,
Mhm.
and it is hard. I think I've changed my cadence, and I had a lot of filler words and weird moments, but I think it's gotten a lot better. I mean, 51 hours. They always say just to get started and you'll iterate over time, and I think
Yeah.
we both have. I think for you, I know we've talked about it, but you said that you hated it at first, and now how do you feel
It
about
was
it?
tough. Yeah, I think just the awareness, like you're saying, you learn the things like your filler words.
Mhm.
I also had phrases that I use quite often that
Mhm.
after listening to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever editing episodes, I'm like, God damn, I use that
Just stop
phrase
it.
over and
Yeah.
over and over and
You
over
hear
again.
yourself say it in a podcast, you're like, oh.
Yeah. And
You're
so,
like, edit that out later.
and I will say it is different though, because that is when people are listening to a podcast that they listen to weekly, if they do, which if you do this for Through the Sightglass, thank you very much.
We appreciate you.
Yeah, it's one of those things where in conversation in everyday life, using those phrases is probably not as annoying as you think it is. But when you edit a podcast and
You hear
release it week after week, you're like, oh man, I use that quite often.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So we have definitely grown from our first podcast to
so
now.
51 hours. That's a total of 3,080 minutes or 184,800 seconds.
It reminds me of
That's so wild.
the Office episode where Michael Scott is leaving.
Yeah. Oh,
I
that
love
song.
it. Yeah, when they sing
Aw.
it.
That's so cute. And with that, the last stat we have is there's probably more stats we could have added, but this is our first time doing it, so we're really excited. We also did 65 reels on Instagram.
Which you've absolutely crushed.
Thank
so
you. They're not easy.
No, it's not only is it not easy. Sometimes the Instagram, the process of making a reel, adding music, and having
All the
everything show
things.
together,
Takes
it's
hours.
when you want to change something in the process, you have to literally start over sometimes, and it's so frustrating when you're literally at the end and you're like, I just want to change this one thing.
Yeah.
But Julie, my beautiful wife, does all of our Instagram, all of our social media.
Which we want to increase next year. That's one of the things we'll talk about.
Yeah, but you've done an amazing
Thank
job.
you.
Amazing job. You've not taken any classes, nothing. You're like, I'm going to learn on the go. And so it's like, I do the simple audio editing. I will help with photos sometimes, but I'm literally just like booking stuff and then editing what we talk about.
Yeah. So to run through a little bit of our process for y'all real fast, and then we'll jump into some of our questions.
Okay.
So we live and drive our home on wheels, our van, with our cats. Austin reaches out via Instagram, email, to find places and areas and states that we're going to be in, or places that we want to go. Several of our podcasts have been people that we have on our bucket list, and so that's been really cool. And there's some more coming up, so that's really exciting. So Austin works on our outreach to schedule those podcasts and make sure they know that it's an in-person podcast. We've had to iterate on our times of communication with
that's definitely
people
been a learning process.
that we're coming in person, which has been really cool. Everyone's response has usually always been positive, and they would rather us come in person. I feel like that's been like a huge thing. So Austin does the reach out, schedules it. We show up with our backpack. We have this huge green backpack with all of our equipment, duffel bag of equipment.
Just filled.
We
looks like
there.
We're getting to Boulder, and it's just filled with audio gear.
Yeah. It looks like we're moving into the brewery. So we show up, we do the podcast, we take pictures, video, Get to have a great time sharing some beer, laughs, stories, all these things, and then come back. Austin edits, and then I edit videos and pictures. And then once he's done, I take snippets. I listen and I take snippets,
Yeah.
um,
You compile it all
clips.
onto like a real,
Yeah, I
like
take
a social media
clips.
package.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we post that. So that's kind of our process. So, let's get into some questions. Um, well, the first one, what are some trends in craft beer that we've been able to explore or see this year?
Well, definitely, and it's been continuing for the last year, but hoppy pilsners, a lot
Mm-hmm.
of hop forward pilsners, like essentially clean beer. Also English style beer, ESBs, a
Yes.
lot of milds. And I think the reason for those trends has been just to really showcase people's, I would say, like recipe and creativity. Um, when you really start to make really fine, those beers are hard. Like when you brew those styles of beers, they are specific to a guideline. But even if you're not following the guideline, they need to be clean. They need to be well executed. So it's showing a brewer's craftsmanship, the quality of the products that they use, and how they use them. And I think it's just another iteration of then if you can do that well, it's like, well, why not add hops to like a well executed pilsner? And how do you do that? How do you introduce it? And I think just English style beers coming in, but like ESBs, milds, everything that's been blowing up. It's more lower alcohol beer, which I think has been a huge trend. Non alcoholics have been trending for a large amount, and I think it's very healthy for the it's a continuation of the cycle of beer, but I think a lot of lower alcohol beer is beginning to trend for the quality and the products that are produced. There's also a larger amount of craft maltzers available.
Right.
The hop farms, we have such a beautiful access to higher quality products now as brewers, which are essentially chefs and artists. So now that we have these ingredients that are super refined and well cared for, it's a better way to introduce our ideas as a medium. And that's not trying to be so, oh, so high up. It just is. It's the fact of like, we have better products to use. And so why not execute them well and show them well? And I think that's why a lot of like lower ABV beer is becoming so popular, is because we get these great malts that are kilned here in the United States. We have hop farms here that produce the best hops that are sent around the world. Um, and I think that's going to continue. I think NAs will be a strong category to continue as well, because I also think there's a balance in health and also not drinking all the time, and I think that's okay to have.
Yeah,
And so
for sure.
we definitely we do our balance, we take our breaks, and we've enjoyed a lot of like different NA options, and especially like a lot of hop water options that have been coming out. Sierra Nevada does a good one. Well Being does a good one, and those are things that like that's enjoyable. Where if you're like, hey, I don't want to feel the need to drink, or maybe I want to go to a bar and hang out with friends but not drink. I want to have these options available that don't taste, like soapy, or don't taste like chocolate chalk, essentially, for the products that they use. There's so many better options, and I think those are the things that will continue. I think the exploration of like new hot products will always continue for IPAs and doubles. And it's been great because we've been on the
We
East
have,
Coast,
yeah.
and the East Coast hazy beers are so different than the West Coast
It's
hazy
kind of
beers.
wild.
And I worked at a brewery that primarily their focus was
Hops.
West Coast hazy beers. But I would say I would say lower ABV beers in terms of like Pilsner, hoppy Pilsners, and ESBs, English style beers, and then NAs. I think that's going to continue.
Yeah.
Styles that I'd like to see come back, and I know this because we talked about it previously, but I really do like the brewed IPA.
I know that we're like a small segment of people maybe, but that's been one of my favorites because I think it was hard for me to like IPAs.
Hmm.
And that's why I liked the brew IPA. And I think now like I'll if I see like a cold IPA on or something like that, like I'll like go towards that first before I just get a but IPAs has been something I've been able to explore a little bit more, which is like I know everyone's like I love IPAs. I'm like I get that, but I've always been a stout girl and I love stouts, and
Yeah.
so going into IPAs has been hard. And I got there, doing some farmhouse, doing some funky stuff, some saisons and different
Yeah.
things like that, and so getting over to the IPA world, it's been fun to explore this year. But yeah, Brutes is. I
Yeah.
want a good. I just miss Brute IPA.
I think it's always that thing. It's like Brute was flash in a pan.
It
And
was.
there's
It's
there's
okay.
so many other trends that do that, but I think it's about time. I mean, it's just similar with like you can call them hoppy pails or sessions, but you see a lot of hoppy pails now that are essentially they were called session. They were branded as session IPAs years before, and that's super popular now because people want a hoppy beer that's not necessarily a
Right?
pilsner, and it's low ABV. But I think
Exactly.
that's super fun.
Yeah. Anyways, that's just a personal thing for me, and it's okay. We'll find our Brutes
Yeah,
IPAs on the way, or maybe one day you'll bring me some Brute IPAs.
absolutely. What's been one of your favorite breweries as we've traveled across the United States that
I
you visit?
can't
Well,
even
no. I can
start.
narrow it
Okay.
down.
Yes, please
Yeah,
narrow.
yeah. So it's not just beer quality that they produce, but it's also atmosphere because that is something for our own business that we want to build. So in terms of aesthetics and atmosphere and even how they build their space, what has been one of your favorite or your top three? I think I can name one of them, but I'm going to let you answer.
Oh, I should have prepared because I didn't prepare. Um, Man, one that stood out to me because there's a lot that are in warehouses and stuff
Mm,
like that, which
like
is
big open industrial
yeah, which is
spaces.
totally great, totally perfect. Like I love him. I really enjoyed New Origins space.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not gonna cry because I'm so sad to know what has happened to New Origins since now, but it was just very unique and it
Mm.
was very different, but it was very inviting, and I felt like I was hanging out in someone's house, but it was a cool house, but a garage and a front yard, and I
There's a lot of
really
craftsmanship. I think you felt
yes,
like a lot of like almost like human personal touches. It didn't seem so
yes,
manufactured.
yeah, for sure. I think it was small and it was just great for what he wanted it to be and how he wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Shout out Dan.
Dan, thank you so much. We love
It
you,
shall
Dan.
be resurrected. We'll see you
Yes,
soon.
yes. Okay, some of my other favorites. Uh, Man, I don't even.
I know one. The Big Friendly.
Oh God. Oh, how did I forget that?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
in
big
Oklahoma
friendly.
City.
Yeah, they're beautiful. I loved that space so much. Very similar but different to New Origins. Smaller. I liked the smaller. It felt like a home
Well,
more
also describe
than.
it because I think that's what we enjoyed the most about it, and it's
Yeah.
very
So it,
you're super. You this is a style that you enjoyed the most.
right. So it's a two-story space. It has like a kind of a loft-ish area, I would say, more than
Hmm.
like it being two separate, because you can once you're in the upper area, like you can
Would
look
you call it
over.
like shotgun home or barn dominium?
Yeah, something like that.
Mm,
If you were to give it to like a style of like a house.
mm.
But yeah, it's just beautiful. You'll have to go back and look at the photos. I loved all of the greenery. And this is something there's a couple of podcasts that we've done since that haven't been posted yet, but y'all we've posted that we are future doing it. But Baton Rouge's locations, they have multiple, they're
That'd be your
just
third.
unheard of.
Yeah.
Wild. But I think another one of my favorites is Austin Street. And
Oh yeah. All
I
their
think I
windows.
think the reason I liked all of them is because all of them had similar. Austin Street had they have huge windows. It's gorgeous. Y'all will have to wait for that podcast to come out in January or February, whenever it is. But the greenery, I love having the windows and the greenery. It's
Yeah.
perfect. So yeah. Anyways, those weren't ones that we have posted yet this year. So sorry for the
No,
superlatives, I guess. But
this is our chance to share a little sneak peek.
yeah, I'm so excited. Okay, I wanted to ask you, what are some of your most insightful moments or memorable moments from our interviews?
Oh man.
We made a list, but you do
Yeah.
it how you want.
I think and this is hard because everything I think this has been the biggest thing about us traveling and especially us working in this industry, and Julie's, I say pseudo. She's worked in this industry and also works a corporate job as a project manager. And my career has been focused on brewing, production management, dealing in this industry. Um, and so it's been very nice to kind of take a step back and view it as like a customer, but also as like a storyteller, because I was so invested in so many other things that I think it's like you almost forget to look at the special things that make it shine. You get so involved in the weeds. Um, One of my favorite ones, and this is early on because working in Astoria, and we love Astoria.
I love Astoria.
Astoria is great. If anybody ever has a chance, this will
Astoria,
release.
Oregon.
There's Festival of Dark Arts, which is one of the biggest beer festivals in terms of dark beers and stouts available in the United States. They shut down essentially this small coastal town, and they go full bore. There's Cirque du Soleil, there's tattoo artists, there's food, and it's the whole town. The whole town comes together.
It's February on the West Coast.
Yeah,
on literally the coast. So you're right there. It rains. It's not
typically dark and rainy.
Yes, and that's why it is what it is.
So in a time when everybody is shuttered in and feeling depressed, there's this giant festival to come pull you out. Fort George puts it on. Shout out to the whole crew, the whole company of Fort George, everybody that makes it happen. Amazing people. But so when we were in Astoria and I was working at Fort George, meeting Dwayne at Bridge and Tunnel,
right.
one of the best.
He's like
one of the best humans, always smoking miscellaneous gas station cigar out front of his bottle shop.
Is it cigars? I thought it was
cigarettes.
It is.
It will sometimes be Swisher Sweets. It'll be sometimes just stubby short cigarillos.
He runs that pretty much solar. His wife comes in and helps, of course. But that was in the podcast. That was our fourth podcast, I think, that we did. But like, he's solo.
Yeah.
He really is like a one-man show with a little bit of help from his loving wife. But like, the community around him is insane.
And he has an amazing beer selection.
He introduced us to some of my favorite beers.
It's incredible. And it's because of Dwayne. If you ever get the chance to be out in Astoria, Oregon and meet Dwayne at Bridge and Tunnel, or his wife, or anybody that works there, you can understand why he's able to get and procure some of the beer that he does. It's because of the people that he meets, and it's because of his personality.
And I think he's one of the only ones. He's done some like collaborations and stuff before, but like, he's one of the only ones that didn't do homebrewing before. Like, hearing his story, like, please go listen to it. It was a short podcast because he's the only worker, and so he had to.
He asked us to podcast with him 45 minutes before he opened.
Well, no, but we
great.
got there, and like, that was the only time he had, which is perfect. It was a perfect little podcast, and I loved it so much because that place is so special to us. But hearing his incredible story, like, it's just so cool to hear. And I'm sorry, I'm taking over your question.
No.
But I think the thing that we've loved about podcasting this year is hearing everyone's story and being able to share it. And I think whenever you go into these places now and you go and you see, some from the pictures or videos that we've taken and posted, but you listen to the podcast and you go into this place and you see the hard work, the sweat, the tears, the love, the passion, and the history that comes with that place. That's why we wanted to do this. And I think being able to share these people's stories has been like the best thing of our entire year. And honestly, we've shared 32 stories this year. That's just of one, brewery. But there's been multiple people in most of these podcasts. Oh, Van Henyon just popped into my head as Spaces.
Yeah. Oh, Spaces that you enjoy.
Yeah.
But
and I think that's like the most beautiful thing. And that's why we want to share these stories with y'all, is so that y'all know where you're going and who you're supporting and how they got there and why they're doing what they do. So it gives you a little bit more of connection to that space. And hopefully it gives you some bucket list places that you want to go visit. Like, I would love for people to come and enjoy the East Coast or go to the West Coast or go to Texas. Oh my gosh, some of the best breweries.
Yeah.
We loved Texas. We love Oklahoma. There's some amazing breweries in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
So just sharing these things with a story and with some pictures and video of those places is why we do it. And
Yeah.
anyways,
Yeah.
yeah.
It is. I think it's just connecting people.
Sorry,
And
I'm crying. It's just the two of us.
no, you're all good. Yeah.
I'm just reflecting over the year, and it's kind of wild.
No, yeah, it is. I think it is a blessing that that we get to be able to do this and I think share. It shows that there's so much outside of your own bubble. And I think that's important is that
Yeah.
when people, if you feel like suffocated or feel like things are staying the same or everything is bleak, you can drive 6, 12, 18 hours. I don't care. But like you can go somewhere else and experience something different and it
Right.
changes your perspective. And then you don't go back to your own place viewing the same or thinking the
Right.
same. And I think for Bridge and Tunnel, those people make the community all the more worth it. And this was in a point too where we were working in Astoria and I was working at Fort George and we met all these amazing people, but it was during COVID and everything was shut down. And Dwayne's was the only thing that was open. So there's that special part. If I was going to put like a couple more up there across our travels, Jesse over at San Juan Island Brewing.
Yeah, cool story.
That was
Cool
such a
place.
cool story. It's a cool place, and also, it's an island that is very much secluded, and they have a very much so tourist season. And it was really cool to see how building like a brewery essentially like really tied together a community, not only financially, but for keeping it strong and keeping
Right.
locals and people there. He was you can listen to the podcast. I won't try to
Yeah.
cliff note it, but they were so much fun. The place is fucking
It's
gorgeous.
gorgeous.
The town of San Juan or Friday,
Friday
Harbor
Harbor.
as they call it, it's just beautiful, and
It's
I
just
think
cool.
it's
You get
like
to take a
worth
ferry.
deserving to adventure out and to
Yes.
see. And then if we were going to go on as well, this is a large jump from Washington State to Lubbock, Texas. Good Line Beer in Lubbock, which is Lubbock is home to Texas
Raiders.
Tech, Rackham Raiders.
Rackham Raiders.
But Chris over at Good Line and his partnership and ownership, they do really well executed beer, and I think that's one thing we find along our travels is when we visit people, friends, and family. A lot of these people, especially for Julie, because she grew up in the South, she grew up in Texas and Oklahoma, and we get stuck in towns where it's like, if we want to go out for a drink, where do we go? And
Right.
especially having drank so many beers, we're like, we would like something that we enjoy. And Good Line had popped up on one of the visits when we were visiting Julie's very close and dear friends, DJ and Tyler, and they said, hey, there's a brewery opening up like literally down the street.
Mhm.
You should check them out. To preface, Chris has worked a long time actually in radio and was in Austin, Texas, and also wrote beer magazine and beer
Yeah.
articles, and was an avid home brewer and was very involved in the Austin beer scene.
And Jam Fest, is that the festival that they
Yeah,
put
their
on?
Lagerfest.
Yeah, and they brought it to Texas.
But essentially, Chris and his partner landed in Lubbock and started Good Line, and I think it's one of those things where it's like a desert island beer. Like, you wouldn't think that in Lubbock, Texas, especially in a college town, there's plenty of college bars, and you drink a lot of Lone Star. You drink a lot of
Yuengling.
Michelob shots, all these things. But to have a quality craft brewery like in a college campus that not only college kids enjoy, but also families and everybody else enjoys, and also they partnered with a great barbecue place.
Mhm.
It was just like, holy shit, you hit the mother load.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. You can listen to the episode, but he's a super humble, amazing, creative
Yeah.
person. Hearing also about their design process.
Yeah, we got to meet their their designer.
Yeah, and
who
he's
does everything.
he's not even an owner, but he's like a well-known graphic design
I think
artist.
he's a professor.
Yeah, he teaches at
We got to
T-Tech.
sit there and talk to him, and like I wanted to buy all of their merch. I wanted to buy
Yeah.
everything they had. I wanted all the things. I loved their vibe.
Yeah, it
And
was.
Dust Coast, like, come on. There's the West
Yes.
Coast, East Coast, Dust
Yeah,
Coast.
they have
Like,
that's
come
that's
on.
their slang is like the best beer on the Dust Coast.
Dust Coast. Hell
They also
yeah.
have like a metal sort of like
Truck.
script that says "All Hail West Texas," and
Yes.
it is fucking sick.
Oh God.
But
Now I want to go
that
back.
was like a very prominent thing, and then I think to finish it off, because if we were to sit here and talk
We could talk
for
about all
two
of them.
hours,
We
it would
could
be
talk
all
about
of
all of
them.
them.
But Asheville, North Carolina, is such a
Yeah.
special place, and not just because Hurricane Helene happened, but when we were there and we were podcasting with them, like a majority of breweries, we got to know the people at Silicoa and New Origin. I think uh, I would say fairly like personally, and it was so awesome.
We had incredible experiences at both of those places.
Yeah, and I think that city just fosters it. There's so much there. There's so much booming for such a small city, and it feels so big. And I think that is like really special. It is. It's not even a bubble. It's one of those like gemstones that you find that it revitalizes you, and you see how much, especially after the hurricane came through and flooded, and New Origin was wiped off the face of the earth
Yeah.
essentially, and Zillicoa and a bunch of other breweries had massive damage.
Right.
The people in the community all came together.
Mm-hmm.
I know that the government's been trying to help, but it really was the people of Asheville. And I think that's what we felt. Like we really
Yes.
felt that like we were there for about a month podcasting and
Right.
drinking and eating and getting to know everybody, and everybody just took care of each other. And that was something I don't think we had felt in a long time in this industry for where we
Right. For
came from.
sure.
And so that would be the other place for me that really stood out, and I
Right.
really enjoyed. And it doesn't diminish anybody that we've podcasted with, because everybody
No.
that we've podcasted with has been so special and been its own intimate experience that
So
we've
unique.
literally cherished.
Yeah. For sure. Like, we could talk about each place and say all the fun things and all the things
Yeah.
that we loved.
Simon at Second Shift, that sweet cat,
I
and the people at Second
can't. Oh my
Shift.
God.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah.
So great.
Never
Yeah. And
ending.
then we had, I mean, we could go, we won't go through the whole list because there's
Mm.
32 of them. We'll just do one honorable mention. Rachel's podcast, our first one, Beers and Bedtimes.
Oh yeah. Of course.
I can't wait. We're gonna go back. We'll be back in a few months. We'll talk about this, our future plans. I can't wait to do another podcast with her. Like, that was our first podcast. She was so gracious, so nice to be our first guinea pig. We had podcasted,
We brought
tested.
charcuterie.
We brought charcuterie, something we don't do anymore because then you get sidetracked and then you end up
It's too
spending
expensive.
3 hours eating and drinking, which y'all don't want to listen to 3 hours of us just talking. But yeah, I just remember us. It was our first podcast.
Yeah.
It was our first time sitting down. It was something that we were going to post, and it was incredible. And honestly, I would not have done it any differently than to do our first podcast with her. She's an avid home brewer. She's worked in the industry, and
She's so knowledgeable.
so
She's been an
knowledgeable.
educator and also an innovator for such a long time.
And like, we had such a blast. So I
Yeah.
cannot wait for round 2 with Rachel because it's just such a pleasure to sit down and talk with her. And I'm just so excited to like see what she's doing and where she's going and what things are going on. But to have that be our first podcast, I think was like the best experience.
Yeah. It was a blessing.
Because it was hard at first. We were newbies. We didn't know anything about podcasting, the setup, the technology, the equipment,
cadence.
nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. So listening to us over the 32 that we've posted so far, thank you. We're excited for what's next. So let's jump into what's next.
All right. Yeah. So we do have some exciting things as we spend out the winter here. So we're out in the East Coast, but essentially Portland, Maine is where we're located.
Currently,
And so we have some really fun stuff coming up. Thankful that a bunch of people out here have been very like willing and open to talk and share their story. So in the next few weeks, we'll be planning to do podcast with breweries like Oxbow, with Maine Beer Company, with Reckless Brewing out of New Hampshire. We'll be talking to Nova Res Beer Cafe, in the near future, which is a pristine beer
Oh my
bar, like
gosh.
probably one of the
Can't wait
top
to go back
top
there.
5 beer bars in the United States. I would say top 3. I know we love the Brick Store in Atlanta, Georgia, and I think that is like, for me, that's tier 1 is the Brick Store
Yeah.
in Atlanta, Georgia.
Definitely a podcast with them.
But so as we finish out the winter here in Maine, we'll be making our way down, and we'll also be able to hit other breweries that we've. And thankful for people that listen to the podcast, because people say like, "Hey, this is where I've really enjoyed," or like, "Here's some breweries you should hit." So we're heading to New Orleans to set up stuff with Meal Brewery, Parlay Brewery. We're also heading to Asheville once again to talk to Fontaflora. We're going to talk to Botanist and Barrel, and hopefully Cellarest
more.
Beer Project.
Yeah, there's a few that we like on the way back. Like I know you're the one who's been doing all the like chatting, so I don't get to see all of the details always. But I really am excited for our route back. So we're based out of the West Coast and we're currently in Portland, Maine. We love New England. I'm just gonna say it for anybody who thinks I don't know. Come out here.
There's
It's
no competition
amazing.
between East and West Coast. They are very similar but
Similar and
different
different.
in their
We
own
love
respects,
it
and it's
so
just as
much.
awesome.
It's been such a pleasure to just spend so much time here. We still have a few weeks here, and then we're going to be traveling back. We thought we would just do a straight shot back from Portland to Portland.
Yeah.
Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon.
But then we had people say, "Hey, please stop by." So
yes, so we're gonna be
heading the south route.
We're gonna go south, which is probably good in March. With our 2-wheel drive van.
Keep us out of trouble.
Right, get us not stuck in the snow. So we're gonna be heading south. So please, if you're listening to this, and we'll put out some stuff too, but we're gonna have about a 2-week window that we're gonna be traveling back through the United States, which is also wild. But trying to hit some more places on the way back, and we've had a couple of listeners reach out and tell us of places that we needed to check out. So
which is so great.
that's why we're going to New Orleans. So
yeah,
thank you so much for your recommendations and places. So if you have anything, please let those people know that we want to come talk to them and share their story. So yeah, we'll be heading back. We're in Portland, Maine. We love it here.
We will be back.
We will be back.
Yes.
We love Portland, Maine so much. We love Maine. We love New England. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So we're here for a few more weeks, doing some more podcasting. Like Austin said, we have some big ones coming up. We'll be heading back through the south to get some more, and then we'll be back on the West Coast in the spring. So we're really excited to be back out where we love what we call home, back on the West Coast.
Yeah.
So really excited for the future.
We'll be building a home base, but we will also be continuing to travel and podcast around the West Coast.
Yeah,
we're very excited about it.
Doing some more. We haven't been on the West Coast, and it'll be almost a year by the time we get back since we've been on the West Coast. So it'll be fun to reconnect with some people and maybe do some like updates or some additional podcasts and stuff like that. We've the next few things that we're going to talk about, I definitely want to say like we've only been posting on Instagram, really mainly for our social medias. But I want everyone to know like we're going to be expanding some of our social media reach. And then also exploring some other places to post our podcast. So our main ones are Spotify and
Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon,
Apple.
We have it up on YouTube with no video. Crossing our fingers and knocking on wood. We're hoping to add. It won't be for every podcast, but maybe for a select few, like maybe once a quarter, we're hoping to do like a video, like a long form video of a podcast.
Yeah. And it won't be us sitting around talking.
Yeah.
I think because we like to do storytelling. And so what we would like to do is have like a visual representation as we storytell to show kind of some like visual points of what we are talking about. It won't be a video of us sitting around a table podcasting.
Which we love. And we watch a lot of those.
It's just what we want to do.
Not our vibe.
Yeah.
We, as you have seen on our Instas and things, you don't see a lot of our faces.
Yeah.
We don't do a lot. So we would love to explore that option. And then international, maybe 2025.
Oh yeah,
Get some
Canada.
Maybe Canada or
That'd
some
be fun.
International trips in. So Yeah, so that's kind of some of the future stuff that we're doing. Please let us know if there's like any places that you want us to go check out.
Yeah, absolutely. Recommendations. We're always here for
Recommendations.
it. We are not, this is not like I think if you're listening, we're not snobby at all. We literally just want to hear people's
Yeah.
stories. We enjoy just getting to know and understanding community and culture and why people are here and like
Right.
why that's important. And I think that's really special to share.
And trying new things. Like, I'm not the best at trying new things. So it's been so awesome to explore new things and new places and new beers, and just enjoy the company of other people. The craft beer industry, the craft beer community is really the reason why we're here. And we love it so much. And the people here are just so incredible. And we want to continue to spread
Hmm.
those stories and connect with those people and yeah, just share with y'all, and we hopefully will get some more connections going where we can talk more with y'all. Like we would love to figure out some ways to connect with our community a little bit more. So
Yeah.
yeah, do we have any other questions?
I don't think so. It says, have you learned anything surprising from guests that you didn't know before? Oh, yeah, that's a good
Oh,
one.
I do like that one. We should do that one.
Yeah. Um, I think one thing we've learned a lot about guests is that there are a fair amount of people that do either fine art or have worked like major corporate jobs, like high up
Mm-hmm.
corporate jobs, and then somehow find their way into this crazy business world of brewing that is like a mixture of a hard physical trade job mixed with science, mixed with art, mixed with a menagerie of things.
Right.
I mean, I would say I think over half the people we've interviewed had degrees in fine art, whether it was being a ceramicist, whether it was a fine art graphic designer, whether it was sculpture, whether it was design, or we also had people that were, it's like they went to school for corporate healthcare,
Right.
that were major like they
Common
it
House.
wasn't just like a business major. It was like no,
Mm-hmm.
I did a master's in like finance for business.
Right.
And I think that was like a really cool blend to see that when you hear those things, you immediately project in your mind as a person, I think, of like, oh, then this is who you are. Oh, this is you are. But here they are like running a brewery, which
Mm-hmm.
is something that has proven to be over years not a highly profitable business, but people get into it because I think of people, that because
Mm-hmm.
of the impact that they can have. And I think that's very important. And a lot of people that we talked to resonated that and
Right.
said, like, we know this needs to make money. We want to keep people employed and we want to give something back to the community. And us leaving a positive imprint is more important than if we leave rich. And I think that's what's crazy is like a lot of these people, and we've talked to a lot of people that
Yeah.
are successful. They said, I am glad my business is doing well, but I would rather leave a positive imprint than leave with like a positive bank account.
Right.
And to me, that's wild. And it's not refreshing, but I'm just like, that's so fucking awesome. Because I think when you teach that to people as business owners, if you have those values and not just chasing profit, you have a higher success rate of leaving something that is like legacy worthy and also giving you a return on
Right.
investment.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing is like hearing people's backstories
Hmm.
of how or why they decided to start the breweries
Yeah.
and their experiences that led them there and the skill sets they learned to bring into the brewery. I think it's such a cool thing. And I think it's something that you've always said to me that you
Mm.
can sit down at a bar or a craft, a craft beer bar or whatever,
Yeah.
and you can talk to people
Yeah.
like after a beer or two, like you can open up about a bunch of different things and having that conversation and that connection. I think that human experience is like a little bit lost nowadays because of the social medias and different things, but that's why we still enjoy going to the breweries and talking with people and connecting with them is because there's such great stories,
Yeah.
such great people, passion, inspiration. Like honestly, I think the reason we're still doing this um
It's because of those
is
people.
because of those
It's
people.
because of this community.
And right now like we haven't made a penny from this podcast,
Yeah.
but we love it so much.
We're going to
And
continue
we're
to
going to
do so.
continue to do it. Like, we're going to figure out other things that we want to do to expand and grow and share people's stories. I think that was the biggest thing when Hurricane Helene hit. We wished that we had a bigger outreach that could help those people.
Yeah, or a bigger bank account.
Yeah, that too. But,
Yeah.
like, we just are loving, like, sharing the stories and connecting people and I don't know, just really enjoying sharing.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's, again, getting to meet all these people has reignited our fire
Yes.
for the
Million
things
percent.
that we want to do in the, the businesses or the life that we want to live, and like why we find this important. And it's
Yeah.
also why throughout history, why people find local stores, bars, everything, like why it's
Mhm.
always been a community hub for people to come together.
Yeah.
Like that is vitally important.
Yeah.
So
No, for sure.
thanks for listening.
Thank you
We
all
just want
so
to give you all
much.
an update.
Yeah.
We're excited for what 2025 has ahead.
It's amazing. We're
We'll
so
be based
excited.
out of the West Coast, but you'll see us all over the map. If you have recommendations, send us to them. Send them to us.
Yes.
For those that have been listening this entire time, and for new listeners, thank you. We supremely appreciate it. For everybody that's supported us, sent us recommendations. Again, like we are not blind. We really do. We are very grateful for it, and we're very grateful to be able to do this.
Yeah.
So we're excited for another year.
Hell yeah. It's going to be our second year.
Yep.
I'm so excited.
It's going to be so much fun.
It's going to be crazy. Like the first year, it was wild. Like recapping it, I'm like, wow, we've done a lot.
We got another year to go. Many more to
Many
go.
more. I'm just so excited. Cheers, y'all. Thank you so
Cheers.
much.